Okay, so I just now got my dampened DPC interp branch merged and updated with 0.5.10, and am really I'm really impressed with the with 0.5.10. I think it's definitely an improvement over any other standard branch I've used. I was able to take turns that I couldn't take with 0.5.9 or any other standard branch. But the good news to me is that I think to everybody is that my MPC dampening logic also improves 0.5.10 as much as it did 5.9, and I think it exceeds anything I've ever done prior with any of the feed forward branches or the resonance. But basically this is just smoothing both the sensor data and the MPC desired angles, extending it out into the future, and then smoothing it to kind of get the offsets right. Does require a little bit of adjustment, but it's not, I wouldn't really consider it a tune as much as adjustments, kind of like a bass and treble knobs on a stereo, but not quite as intuitive as I hoped it would be, but still a whole lot easier than doing the PIF tuning. But the results are that what I've found is that I've been able to increase my it seems that I've been able to increase my maximum steering range more than 1 degree in each direction. Jerks. Where was I? But also, I'm able to keep the response high. So the problem I had with previous feed forward logic was that if it was really heavily engaged, it would just slow down the response times. But with this approach, it doesn't actually degrade the response. It just makes it to where it's much more intentional and direct, and you don't have that autocrosser hands. You've got a slow steering wheel that's slow when it can be, fast when it needs to be, but right to the angle, laser focused on the center of the lane. This white line across the middle of the screen here is the actual lane center poly from the or de-poly lane position from the path planner. The stick and hold just works amazing, where you just give it a nudge and it'll hold it there. So I'm able to get more than 15 degrees, or by just giving it a nudge. I disabled the one of the error codes that's being reported on the CAN bus as a bump in the Honda port, but it's actually I don't think it really is a bump, or that it needs to be considered an error, because it's really just the same thing. The same message happens if I just tweak the steering wheel. Like if I give it a one of those nudges that I just did, that would trigger that bump code and it would disengage. So it make it to where if I nudge it too hard, it would disengage temporarily and not hold it. But also if I am in a corner and I hit a pothole, or manhole cover or something like that just kind of gives the steering wheel a little shake, that would also disengage and just toss me straight into a curb. So by disabling that disengagement, it really helped a lot on some of these long sweeping corners or curves that have any sort of irregularity in the surface, which is common on the city streets. So I'm really enjoying that. Even if comma won't accept the PR for the full set of enhancements, I'd like to submit, or I plan to submit a PR for just that by itself, because that would benefit everybody with Honda. curves that I could never take before. It's just been since 0.5.9 that I started to be able to make most of these curves on the hills, because the curves actually start to crest, or start to come on at the crest of some of the hills. Makes it to where it's hard to see that it is a curve until you're right up on it. So I was impressed that 5.9 would even see them, let alone make the curve. But with the dampened lateral control, those curves are much more achievable on a regular basis. I don't have to just kind of wonder if it's going to make it. It'll just make it, unless the angle's too great like this one, and I know that I have to give it a nudge. But it'll hold it. So that's win. I did 0.5.10 on this same route earlier today. And was really impressed with how it did, but it did have that sort of autocrosser hands where the steering wheel was kind of in continuous motion, and the proportional value from PIF was very sawtoothed, which is typical, very noisy. But it just didn't have. It was just constantly hunting for an angle, and the center line was not nearly as flat as what it is there. So if I move the car around in the lane, you'll see that it starts to have a little bit of a wave to it. These green marks up here, that's whenever there's a steer override. This is one of my favorite parts of the route, where there's several very long sweeping turns that really make it easy to test whether I'm turning in too soon or too late, or if it's bouncing off the inside edge or the outside edge. This really helps dial it in a lot. It'd be great if you can find a street like this. That bump back there would have sent the car into the curb if not for disabling that steer error for bumps, or it's called bumps. I don't know. How the steering wheel is just motionless while it's taking that long curve. Yeah. Also, I found that it seems to be quieting down the noise or irregularity of the MPC desired angle as well. So it's like by keeping the steering noise free, it makes the vision noise free also. So it's a feedback loop on the noise. logic on the beep, so that it's not just beeping all the time. I think it'd be better if it was triggered on saturation and also lane center or time, because it just shouldn't be beeping when there's no need to actually grab the wheel, I don't think. I want to point out is that the one of the benefits of the dampening is that it, by extending the target angle out into the future in the MPC angles, and then smoothing those in over many control cycles in several MPC cycles, I'm able to filter out a lot of the kind of reactive decisions about turn lanes and exit ramps. It's not completely fixed, but it's definitely reduced, so it doesn't pull for as many of them as it was before. Note that I've only got one lane line here, and the other one, it kind of bumps in and out, but it's not interrupting the steering of the car because of that. Also because of that filtering and the smoothing. So normally this steering wheel would be just kind of doing these little twitches back and forth, but with this it's just almost hard to tell that it is moving at all. So the green line, or the kind of stair-steppy line, is the standard MPC angle, that first delta, and the yellow line that's on top of it is the dampened MPC line, which is projected and smoothed, so that can see it on the screen, and with a little bit of tuning on the dampening, I can get rid of that. But I actually plan on automating that process, because that's kind of the simple part. It's just identifying a recurring harmonic and just adjusting one value at a time until it's minimized, and then go to the next value and adjust it. So I'm going to do that after I get the bugs worked out of this. But this is my test. This is my new test track. It's it's got a 55 mile an hour speed limit, which it's not a lot of traffic. I've never seen a policeman on here. There's not a lot of places for a policeman to hide. There's also just a U-turn yield at each end, so I don't have to stop for stoplights or stop signs or anything like that. But it's a pretty diverse set of turns, and when I first started using this place, I was not able to make many of these turns without manual intervention, or even if I could, it would be beeping at me the whole time. But with 0.5.10, it would make these same turns, but with more beeping and with more motion. But now with the dampening, it's just perfect. I think there's just 3 places where I have to give it a nudge. I have to give it a nudge. right now I'm not, even though there is visible change in the steering angle, I'm not feeling that at all. So this is a very, very comfortable, smooth ride. I could not do this manually. hard if it would have been on the left side. Like how the smoothing makes the transition across the turn across the stripes much smoother. It doesn't have that hard grab as you crest the line. Right now I don't have a lane line on the right, so it's doing a pretty impressive job. Normally without the dampening enabled with standard OP, if I were to go over bumps, waves, the lane lines appear to be like the lane is widening, but if there's two solid lane lines, they cancel each other out, and there's no disruption in the steering. But when there's only one lane line, and you go over a bump, it interprets that as a turn. So the steering wheel will go woo, 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 as you go over a wave. But with the dampening, that's reduced a lot, because I'm saying right now I'm dampening over 300 milliseconds. So 6 MPC cycles. So that every single control cycle, it's using a smoothed projected value from 6 vision updates. So that really cancels out those bumps a lot.